الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد يقول الله تبارك وتعالى في كلامه المجيد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ربنا وجعلنا مسلمين لك ومن ذريتنا أمة مسلمة لك وأرنا مناسكنا وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وبارك وسلم اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وبارك وسلم اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وبارك وسلم. My dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, we all know the importance of dua, of asking from Allah Azza wa Jal. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said it best, ad-dua mukhul ibadah, that dua is the essence, the core of ibadah, worship. And Allah Azza wa Jal, where He mentions the stories of the Anbiya, prophets alayhimus salatu wassalam in the Quran, 25 of them, He also mentions their duas, the duas that they made. For example, Nuh alayhi salam, anni maghlubun fantasir, when after preaching and inviting to his people for 950 years, he finally made his dua. Oh Allah, anni maghloob, I have become overwhelmed. Fantasir, so help me. فَفَتَحْنَا أَبْوَابَ السَّمَاءِ بِمَاءٍ مُنْهَمِرٍ. And Allah Azza wa Jal answered, He opened the floodgates of rain from the skies. And we know what happened to his nation, how they were drowned. And Allah Azza wa Jal mentions the dua of Ayub alayhi salam. After being sick, physically sick for many decades, he makes his dua, Anni massani ad-dur. He does not ask for shifa, for cure. He simply is stating his situation. Anni massani ad-dur. Harm has come to me. In other words, I am in pain. وَأَنْتَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. And you are the most merciful out of all those who show mercy. In other words, oh Allah, if you are happy with me being sick, then I am also happy in this state of sickness. But that was his dua. And the dua of Yunus alayhi salam, La ilaha illa anta subhanak, when he was in the stomach of the whale, Inni kuntu min al-zalimin. And Quran says, La labitha fi batn al-hut. If he did not make this dua, he would have stayed in the stomach of the whale till the day of judgment. And the dua of Zakaria alayhi salam, Rabbi la tadharni fardan wa anta khairul warithin. Do not leave me without children, without an heir. Even though he had reached old age and his wife was barren and he's asking for a son. Ulama say that this is proof that you can ask for the impossible. It is impossible for a human being to have a child at this age. But here Zakaria alayhi salam is asking for the impossible. As long as it's permissible, you cannot ask for something that is not permissible, that is haram. But you are asking for something that is permissible. It is impossible, but not for Allah. For Allah Azza wa Jal, there is no such thing as impossible. And the dua of Isa alayhi salam, Allahumma anzil alayna ma'idatan minas sama takunu lana eidan li awwalina wa akhirina. Asking for food, table-laden food to descend from the sky above. And the dua of Musa alayhi salam, Rabbi inni lima anzalta ilayya min khairin faqir. Or the dua, more emphatic is his dua when he was crowned with prophethood and told, idhab ila fir'aun, go towards Fir'aun. He has become a rebel. And what did Musa alayhi salam say? What was his dua? Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani. Oh Allah, you are sending me for this humongous task of inviting the tyrant of all tyrants, Fir'aun. But open my heart and make my task easy for me and remove the knot from my tongue. In other words, the stuttering that I have, remove that stuttering. وَاجْعَلْ لِي وَزِيرًا مِّنْ أَهْلِي هَارُونَ أَخِي اشْدُدْ بِهِ أَزْرِي. And make my brother Harun my assistant. And the dua of Sulaiman alayhi salam, رَبِّ اغْفِرْ لِي وَهَبْ لِي مُلْكًا لَا يَنْبَغِي لِأَحَدٍ مِّن بَعْدِي. Oh Allah, forgive me and give me such a kingdom that no one after me has ever been given such a kingdom, or will be given such a kingdom. And Allah Azza wa Jal gave him such a kingdom, power and authority, not only over human beings, but over jinn, and over the animal kingdom, and over air, right? So this is some of the du'as of the prophets that Allah Azza wa Jal has mentioned in the Quran. But the sheer number of du'as and the quantity and quality of the du'as of Ibrahim alayhi salam that are mentioned in the Quran surpasses all other prophets. Dozens of du'as of Ibrahim alayhi salam. So in this month of Dhul Hijjah, when we take time out to remember Ibrahim alayhi salam, let us remember his du'as. One du'a that we see that comes up again and again is Ibrahim alayhi salam praying for his progeny, for his children. Habli minas salihin. When he does not have children, he says, "Oh Allah, grant me pious, righteous, virtuous children." And wajnubni, another dua of Ibrahim alayhi salam, wajnubni wa baniya an na'bud al-asnam. Save me and my children from worshipping idols. Can you imagine? Ibrahim alayhi salam is asking Allah to protect him from falling into idolatry. He had seen firsthand in Mesopotamia, present-day Iraq, the wickedness of idolatry and how people fall into shirk. So he's asking Allah Azza wa Jal for protection, not only for himself, but for his children. Rabbana waj'alna muslimaini laka, another dua of Ibrahim alayhi salam for his children. Oh Allah, make me and Ismail Muslims, those who submit to you. وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِنَا, and from our progeny, from the progeny of Ibrahim and Ismail, from our progeny, make ummatan muslimatan lak, an ummah, a Muslim ummah, an ummah, a community that is also submissive, that submits to you. And when Allah Azza wa Jal announces to him after he passed all his tests with flying colors, وَإِذِ ابْتَلَىٰ إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ قَالَ إِنِّي جَاعِلُكَ لِلنَّاسِ إِمَامًا. O Ibrahim, I am going to make you an imam for all of mankind. لِلنَّاسِ imama. That includes Bani Israel. It includes the Nasara, the Christians, the Jews. And Ibrahim alayhi salam is known as Abul Anbiya, the father of prophets. Why? Because all the prophets that came after Ibrahim alayhi salam were either direct or indirect descendants of Ibrahim alayhi salam. So you had Adam alayhi salam, and approximately 10 generations later you had Nuh alayhi salam. And it was those who were with him on the ark, Nuh alayhi salam, and those who were with him on the ark, that were the only ones, according to Mufassirin, that were alive on planet Earth. We do not say that the flood covered the whole entire world, because geographers might refute that. But وَجَعَلْنَا ذُرِّيَّتَهُ هُمُ الْبَاقِينَ. Quran says that it was his progeny, his and his children, that were the survivors. In other words, Nuh alayhi salam is known as the second Adam. Progeny, generations, or humanity started from him once again. But after Nuh alayhi salam comes Ibrahim alayhi salam a few generations later, and Ibrahim alayhi salam, father of nations. جَاعِلُكَ لِلنَّاسِ إِمَامًا. Not the imam who leads the prayer. That might be part of it, but imam here is not the leader that we think of, the political leader or the corporate leader in the business world. As a matter of fact, leader is probably not the best.
There's a car parked right there on the curb. It's blocking all the traffic.
There's a car that is parked.
The Hyundai SUV.
Hyundai SUV. Please remove it. Jazakumullah. And out of all this, that's flawed. وَجَعَلْنَا ذُرِّيَّتَهُ هُمُ الْبَاقِينَ. Yes. And what happens? Imam, not the Imam that leads the prayer, but Imam in the sense an exemplar, a role model, someone that everyone looks up to. Right? A moral leader, Imam. And Ibrahim alayhi salam, his ask is, وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِي قَالَ وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِي. What about my children? Will my children also receive this honor, my progeny? Remember this, when he's asking for about his children, his progeny, it includes Christians, everyone. قَالَ لَا يَنَالُ أَهْدِ الظَّالِمِينَ. Allah Azza wa Jal replies that this promise of imamat, of leadership, does not extend to the wrongdoers. In other words, those from amongst your children, your progeny who do wrong, this does not extend to them, this promise. This is ayat number 124 of Surah Baqarah. Ayat 126, Ibrahim alayhi salam makes another dua. This time he's asking Allah, Rabbana, Rabbij'al hadha baladan amina. Oh Allah, make this town, make this city amin, secure, peaceful. The city, the town of Makkah. Rabbij'al hadha baladan amina. وَرَزُقْ أَهْلَهُ مِنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ. And give the inhabitants, those who live here and those who live around Makkah, give the inhabitants مِنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ. Food in abundance, rizq, fruits, wealth. Man amana. But what does Ibrahim alayhi salam do? He thinks that because he was corrected when it came to imamat, so he thinks that this, when it comes to abundance of wealth, it's only for those who are deserving. So what is his dua? Oh Allah, give rizq in abundance to the inhabitants of this city, those who believe in Allah. Man amana billahi wal yawmil akhir. And Allah Azza wa Jal replied, no. Qala wa man kafar, whoever does kufr, we will also give him. فَأُمَتِّعُهُ قَلِيلًا. We will give him an enjoyment. The distinction is in the hereafter. ثُمَّ أَضْطَرُّهُ إِلَىٰ عَذَابِ النَّارِ وَبِئْسَ الْمَصِيرُ. When it comes to spiritual leadership, when it comes to being an exemplar, a role model for humanity, that is only for the good doers. But when it comes to rizq in abundance, Allah Azza wa Jal gives it to one and all. And when it comes to the dua of Ibrahim, the duas of Ibrahim, the most profound dua of Ibrahim alayhi salam is, in my opinion, where he asks for Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Rabbana wab'ath fihim rasulam minhum yatlu alayhim ayatika wa yu'allimuhum al-kitaba wal-hikmah wa yuzakkihim. Oh Allah, send in them, not some outsider. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was from Quraysh. Send in them, from amongst them, a messenger who does three things. And this is the job description of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Yatlu alayhim ayatik. He recites your verses. In other words, he preaches. He calls people towards you. And note, please note, the second thing that Ibrahim alayhi salam mentions is وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ. He teaches them Quran and Sunnah. And the third thing that Ibrahim alayhi salam mentions is وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ, and he purifies them. This is the job description of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. When Allah Azza wa Jal mentions how he answered this dua of Ibrahim alayhi salam, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam himself would say, I am the result of the dua of Ibrahim alayhi salam. What's the point of having a masjid if no one comes to it? What's the point of having the Kaaba after having built the Kaaba? This is the dua that Ibrahim alayhi salam made. Send in them from amongst them someone who does this, this, and this. And Allah Azza wa Jal replied, لَقَدْ مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Indeed, we have showered the believers with our grace, with our bounties, with our fadl. إِذْ بَعَثَ فِيهِمْ. When we sent a messenger, مِنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ, from themselves, who يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِ, who recites the verses. So that's the same. That's what Ibrahim alayhi salam put as number one, and this is what Allah Azza wa Jal put as number one. And who purifies them. What did Allah Azza wa Jal mention? What Ibrahim alayhi salam had mentioned in third place, Allah Azza wa Jal brought it up to second place, where yuzakkihim. And who teaches them the Quran and the Sunnah. What Ibrahim alayhi salam mentioned as ta'limul kitab wa sunnah as second place, Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned it as third place. What was switched? Ibrahim alayhi salam put ta'lim before tazkiyah, and Allah Azza wa Jal put tazkiyah before ta'lim, as if to say that tazkiyah is more important than ta'lim. Purification of the heart is more important than ta'limul kitab. Anyhow, these are some of the du'as of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And his most famous dua is Hasbi Allahu wa ni'mal wakil. As he was being thrown into the fire, Allah is sufficient for me, wa ni'mal wakil, and he is the best disposer of affairs. But this dua is made when you have done everything humanly possible, and now it's only and only in the hands of Allah, and nothing is up to you. That is when you make this dua. Hasbi Allahu wa ni'mal wakil, when you are facing opposition, opponent, enemies. May Allah Azza wa Jal enable us to imitate, yes, make the same duas that Ibrahim alayhi salam made. We are reading a chapter in Riyadh al-Salihin currently about the duas of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Kitab al-Da'awat. What duas did Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam make? And there's plenty of duas that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam made. And as I said, the duas of the prophets are mentioned in the Quran, and the duas of Ibrahim alayhi salam, both in quantity and quality, surpass the duas of all other prophets that are mentioned in the Quran. So this is the month of dua. Let us make dua for ourselves first and foremost. We are in need more than anyone else. And make dua for the whole Muslim ummah. May Allah Azza wa Jal relieve them of distress wherever they may be in distress. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ. Please pray your sunnah.